thank you again for you all attending. I think this has been a fantastic couple days, so thank you. Yeah, very well done. So it's my honor to, and I said this earlier, so the governor was going to just come and speak, but I asked if maybe we could just do this over here, and he agreed. So I've been working on some questions and going to try to trip him up, but it's truly an honor to serve the state of Tennessee, number one. It's just truly an honor. I'm very humbled to do it. And it's also equally humbling and an honor to serve the 50th governor of our great state. And I've known this man for quite some time. And I get to work alongside him and do some fun stuff, but also some serious stuff that's trying to, again, make Tennessee a great place to live, work, and play. I also enjoy the opportunity not only to work with the governor, but to work with a fantastic team. I know that in the audience we have many of our commissioners that are here. If you all could just stand up, just so everybody recognizes you are commissioners and agency leaders as well. Patrick, thank you all. There may be some governor staff as well. If you're here, please stand up too, governor staff. Yeah, thank you. That's good. They're not, a lot of them not here. They're working in Nashville. So I'll just quickly say this, Governor, you can go ahead and start coming up. But just during the governor's 4.5 years, we've announced just over 500 projects, almost 90,000 net new jobs, and $34 billion of CapEx across those 500 projects, which is remarkable. Very good. Thanks to you. The other great thing about that is that about 30% of those have occurred in our rural communities and rural parts of our state. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. During this year, just this calendar year, we've announced just over 70 projects, 7,000 net new jobs, and $3 billion of CapEx. So again, even despite some of the headwinds in the economy and all the things going on around the world, Tennessee is still getting some projects done. And thanks to you all in this great state, we're able to do that under great leadership. So, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Have a seat. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for introducing me and having me. Stuart and I have known each other for about 25 years. And as he said, well, when I came into office, I didn't really think he would come to work in state government. And I remember Governor Alexander saying to me, you should just ask people you absolutely wouldn't imagine would come to work and see if they'll do it. And he did, and I'm really grateful for that. And he's leading a team that has done remarkable work, and very proud of all of our commissioners that are here and our team. Really, really proud of the work we do. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
You got a big old crowd of very influential and important people. I already kind of looked at the list. I was like, how'd you get all those people to come in one spot?
Well,
glad you're all here. Thank you.
Well, when you asked me to join you, I went back and talked to my wife about it, and the only thing she said is just don't screw it up. So,
well, you haven't. That's good.
So far, so good. So I guess maybe the first and maybe the most.
She says that every day.
Well, yeah. Which is a great segue. My very first question is, how is Maria doing?
Thank you. A lot of people ask me that, and we are very blessed. And, there's some downsides to being a public political figure, and there are some upsides too. And the upsides are that people know about your life, and when you're sick, like she was very, very sick and a very serious diagnosis, she had millions probably of people praying for her, and the Lord has been gracious, and she is in remission, and she's had scans and everything. We're really grateful, so thank you.
Yeah, well, we continue to pray. I know that's still, the journey's not over, so I know everybody in this room would agree. We're all behind you and her, and thankful for her supporting you in this journey that you guys are on. So maybe the first question that I have, and again, this is an audience that are in some form or fashion touching economic development in a variety of different ways. It's a very diverse group, professionally speaking. And so what would be, you know, when you're out around the state, but maybe even more importantly, across the country and even in other countries, what is here's why Tennessee is open for business. What makes Tennessee an attractive place to do business from Governor Lee's perspective?
And we are a very attractive place to do business, and you would expect me to kind of brag about Tennessee, but the facts actually bear out the truth, and it's not bragging, it's just factual that we have historic interest and historic decision-making happening about companies that are coming into our state. You all know that because you're in positions of leadership, but it is happening, and there's probably a lot of reasons for that. I'll tell you one that the one I always say, and people will say, well, you know, you kind of just say that because it's a nice thing to say, but I do say the people of Tennessee are unique. People are interested in this state because of the people, and you might take that for granted if you live here. But a couple of stories I'll tell you. One was from a CEO of a very large company that ultimately made their decision to base their company in Tennessee. And they told me about how they traveled around. They picked a few states they wanted to maybe consider. And this happened to be in Nashville, but they came to Nashville and they stayed in a particular hotel on their trip to kind of look at Tennessee as a place to put their business. And they were astonished. It was remarkable to them the way the people, even in the hotel, treated them. They said, you know, the people are so nice here. And they were generous and they were kind. And then we got out and we started meeting with people. And the people that live here are just so hospitable. And so, you know, and you kind of take that for granted when you live in Tennessee, but it is true. And people are coming here because of the people. I also met a guy last year who, when he said, I moved here from New York, and you probably heard me tell this story, but it's such a great story. He walks up to me and he said, I want you to know I moved here from New York. I brought my whole family. And when I came here, I feel like we have moved back to America. And that is why people want to come to Tennessee. People want to come somewhere where their executives of their corporation are going to have a quality of life that they like, where they feel like they can raise their children and play and worship and work and raise their family in a place that they want to be, and Tennessee's one of them. Secondly, I think we do have some huge advantages. We are the lowest tax per capita state in the country, if not second, depends on the statistic. But I mean, Tennesseans pay less in taxes as a percentage of personal income than most every other citizen in America. And that matters to people. It matters to corporations. It matters to the individuals. And I ran a business for 25 years, and part of what if, for example, if you're a business, it matters to you the stability of the government in which you operate your business. Are they going to raise taxes on me because they are not being fiscally responsible, or they don't manage the budgets well, so they got to raise taxes and businesses pay higher taxes? Is it a highly regulatory environment? Are they going to, make it difficult for me to do what I do as a business person? And so for 25 years, I worked there 35, but I ran it 25, and I was on the business side of interacting with government. And I was in a highly regulated business too. And so it really does matter what the regulatory environment looks like. And if you're making decisions about a major company, you want to know what's the tax environment, what's the stability of the government's fiscal policy. We're going to New York Monday to speak to the bond rating agencies. We're one of a few states that have AAA ratings. And every year, Secretary Hargett's here, Treasurer Lillard's here. Every year when we prepare for that and we go over all of our slides, and Secretary Hargett lays out all the financial data for Tennessee, I find myself once again shaking my head going, there just aren't any states like Tennessee in the way that we manage our finances. And I came from a business background, so I understand what a balance sheet is and why it matters so much. And the state basically has one. And there are things that you can do to impact your balance sheet just like you do in your business. The state has had 2, 3 governors, I don't know, I didn't know the ones before that, but that have been committed to fiscal policy that speaks to business people, and that's the other reason we're so attractive.
Yeah, we often hear from the work that we do, at the end of the day, it really is the people that makes the difference. We all compete with the states and have all of our incentives and all the things that we do, but ultimately it's the people that is truly confirmed out there, in the work that we do. I also, and before you arrived, sir, I recognized members of our General Assembly, and I know you know this because you say it often. We're thankful to have a relationship, but also just decades of, from a fiscal standpoint, the leadership that has been demonstrated in the legislature.
That's right. I see Representative Howell here, and I think Chair Lady Hazelwood. Actually, I think there's 7 or 8 or 9 members of the General Assembly in here. I'm not sure. Would you all stand up? Would you all stand up if you're here, please? I want everybody to just see you, and thank you. Because Patsy chairs finance, and she has a very strong commitment to fiscal responsibility, just like all of your delegation does. By the way, you're very fortunate to have the delegation you have. They represent this community very, very well, and they also have relationship with our office, which is very important. And we could not do what we do without them. And I just want to reiterate that, but they have a very strong, the leadership in the General Assembly and the members themselves have a very strong commitment to things like a rainy day fund that we have doubled since we came into office, because it matters if you have stability. And the bond rating agency types look at that. They want to know, they want to look at your reserves to make sure that you're prepared for difficult days. So I thank you for your work.
So switching gears real quick, when you came into office in 2019, your first executive order, talk a little bit about that, and so far the results I think are trending positively, but talk a little bit about that.
In 2015, and Maria and I were actually talking about this last night. In 2015, I took my truck, and I had a friend who was a county mayor in Dixon, Bob Ryle, and I said, I would like to travel around the state. I had not decided to run for governor. I was thinking about it. This was 3 years before the election. And I said, I want to ride around the state, and I want to meet the county mayors of the most economically distressed counties in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And we, at the time, I think we had 19, maybe 17. I can't remember what about the year 2015. Might have been 17, but I think it was 19. Distressed counties. He made appointments for me for all of those mayors, except for 1 or 2 that wouldn't meet with me because they didn't know who I was and they didn't want to spend any time with me. But I don't remember who they were.
That's probably a better said.
I took an old white, I have my farm pickup truck, and I went to all 15 or 16 or 17 of those counties that I could and sat down with those county mayors. Because I came from rural Tennessee, and I thought, you know what, I want to know what it's like Tennessee's in a good spot, but I don't know what it's like in poor Tennessee. And the most economically distressed parts of Tennessee. Besides the inner city, which I'd worked in, and if you want to talk about, difficult environments, I'd worked in inner city youth organizations and things, so I'd seen that part of underserved Tennessee, but I wanted to see it in the rural. So I did. I went, and when one thing led to another, and I ended up being governor. And when I became governor, I decided that those rural counties were incredibly important to the entire economic fabric of our state. And what happened in those counties mattered a whole lot to what happens in urban centers and big cities. So first executive order made all of these department commissioners, every commissioner had to create a strategic plan on what they were going to do in their department that would positively impact the life and economy of our rural counties, and specifically our distressed rural counties. And so they came up with some very creative strategies and worked together, and we have kept a focus on rural Tennessee. It's not the only focus we have. It's just a focus that you put in place while you're focused on the no-brainer issues, and you make sure that the entire economy and the big cities and all the things you got to do, but make sure that we included that in the focus. And we had 15 when I came into office. We have 8 today, and we will. Maybe we'll have, none in the next 3 or 4 years. We certainly get closer to 0. And this is on a national average of the lowest 10% performing counties in America. So it's comparing us to other counties in America. So we're better than the national average at the moment, and we were way above the national average when we came in here. So it does matter, and a whole lot of you in this room are the ones that are operating in those rural communities. Your county may or may not be distressed, and the designation distress is not that's just a marker, but you're in a rural community, and the investments that we need to make collectively together, including big cities like Chattanooga, understanding that what happens 3 counties over really does impact what happens in Chattanooga, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, well, the results are looking really good. And again, sort of setting the tone. This was your first executive order, so you set the tone. I think everybody in the audience and others that aren't here recognize how important it was. And again, team effort to be able to achieve those accomplishments. So it's been fantastic. So switch gears to workforce. So one of the things I've noticed about the governor, and I saw this in the private sector at Lee Company, 1,500 employees roughly. So this is a family business, plumbing, electrical, heating, air, 1,500 employees. So this governor understands the value in investing in its workforce. And so so much so, one of the really fun things about this job is to go out to communities and put the shovel in the dirt or cut the ribbon. But what I notice with this governor is after he says hello to the local officials, he goes right to the employees that are there and asking them questions about this announcement and what it does for them and their families. And that's the reason we do what we do, is going right to the source to hear what they have to say. And so because of that and how you value workforce, let's talk about some of the investments that have been made. You've got GIVE, you've got this last budget cycle, significant investments in TCAT system and other things. So talk a little bit about, how you're approaching that and how you see this unfolding over the next few years.
There's kind of 2 sides to that. Like the attractiveness to the state is its people and its economic fundamentals and how we manage a budget. The same was with workforce. It is really, if you're in the job that I'm in, from a 30,000 foot perspective, or from the big picture, is you do this job just like what you do in your jobs, many of you, and the reasons and purposes behind what you do with your life is usually more than to pay the bills, right? Or to, I don't know, whatever the sort of pragmatic reason to do the things that you do. There's a bigger reason in most people's heart for why they do things. And certainly in this job, it's to make life better for people that live in this state. Somehow using the gifts and the opportunities you've been given to assemble a group of people that can create change that will make life better for people and access more opportunity and give them a better life and give their kids a better life. And one of the pragmatic ways to do that is to skill people up, is to give them skills and the ability to access that opportunity. And that's really what workforce development is. And working at Lee Company all those years and watching men and women who maybe were not on a path to success in the traditional eyes of the world, but watching them find a pathway because of a commitment to workforce and training and workforce development. Watching that happen in the private sector made me say, we ought to be doing that. Now that I'm in this new job, my new responsibility is to create that in a big way. That was the impetus behind the GIVE Act, the governor's investment in vocational education, that turned into, a commitment to CTE in every high school and every middle school, $500 million committed to CTE in these schools. That led to a commitment of $1 billion in this last budget for our colleges of technology. And those colleges of technology, they have waiting lists, and they have 90% job placement rates for people in the field in which they studied. We should not have waiting lists at workforce development factories that are producing highly skilled people. So we invested heavily there. It's not just because you're trying to invest in the lives of these people, but these companies are demanding it. When I sat across the table from the COO at Ford, I really think the reason that company decided to come to Tennessee was because we had a very compelling story to tell about how much we believed in developing workers for them, and that we had a history in it, and we had a private sector history in it. Our team did, and that we understood it, and that we had give, and we had this, and we had that, and they sat there and said, "We think you can deliver workers." And by the way, that was going to be 6,000 workers for them in the middle of a very rural part of our state. And it's going to be a challenge to do it, but they believed that we would. The state with the workers will win those competitions every time, because you're all going to have the same kind of financial, incentives, et cetera. The state with the workers is going to win. And we've made a lot of investments there. Mark Ezell is sitting over here, and we've created a very unique partnership between the Department of Labor and Workforce and the Department of Tourism to, uniquely create a work pipeline for people in the hospitality industry and the tourism industry. We've done a number of those things because we're one of the fastest growing tourist states in America too. In fact, we are the highest growth rate for visitor spending of the top 25 states in the country, and we have to have workers. One other thing about workforce development, you can talk about CTE and vocational and all of that. I'm also in the nuclear, we also created a nuclear advisory council, and I'm very engaged in the idea of expanding our nuclear leadership in America. We are already a leader in that industry. And so we have to focus on, and there's something called the Oak Ridge National Laboratory partnered with the UT Institute that is focused on not technical jobs in that sense, but highly specialized nuclear engineering, jobs that you don't get at a TCAT. And we have to understand that workforce development is a full, broad scope of that, which is why we put $1 billion in our public education system. Besides the CTE, $500 million that we focus, $1 billion new dollars into our public schools. And we're investing in our higher education system in traditional directions. It's why we've got now 2 nuclear engineering programs in 2 different universities in our state, because we've got to have the physicists and scientists and engineers, and we've got to have them just as well as we've got to have the welders and pipe fitters and electricians. Both of them are incredibly important to having the workers needed to stay ahead of the workforce development in this state.
Well, it's evident with the investments that have been made and your priorities. I think, we got manufacturing sort of moving into this knowledge economy and making the right investments. So I certainly applaud. It helps us in our work, what we do. You mentioned energy. That's a big topic. We think about workforce and energy and other infrastructure related topics. It's something if we're going to be competitive, obviously, we need to make sure that we're doing the things that you help lead us in, sir. So thank you for that.
Yep.
We're coming up on our time, so I really have just one more question, and it might be one of the most important questions too that I ask is, who's your favorite commissioner? I'm just kidding. I don't want you to answer that. No.
A lady named Maria Lee is the commissioner of Building, so she's my favorite commissioner.
No, in all seriousness.
I know you got to close. I'm looking at that clock too, but I want to say a couple more things that are so important to the people in this room, I think, from a standpoint of what do you do all across the state in every community and every, what is your priority for my next 3 years, but really for our state going forward. And we've talked about workforce development and fiscal stability and investing in education. I think that I'm thinking now about the next 25 years. I'm starting to think I'm going to be out of here in 3 years or 3.5, but basically 3 years. And what do I want to be doing right now based on the fact that I don't get to do this forever? Think about what's 25 years from now and invest in those things that 25 years from now, people are going to look back and go, I'm really glad that somebody made a decision to do this 25 years ago. That's why we're passed the Transportation Modernization Act with the help of the General Assembly and their great leadership on that. That's why we put $1.3 billion in water and sewer infrastructure investments. And water and sewer may not be sexy to you, but I'm a plumber, and it is to me, and it ought to be to everybody in this state because that's what investing in transportation and infrastructure and broadband expansion and technology and that's the kind of stuff that, boy, we better hope that we are putting those kinds of long-term dollars in. It's almost like upkeep and keeping the fundamentals moving forward in our state, that so that no matter what happens, we're kind of ready for it. And those are and then the last thing I'll say about that is thinking beyond just economic development and opportunity and security and the things that matter to Tennesseans, but quality of life matters to them. And we have a remarkable quality of life in this state. We have a beautiful state. We have incredible natural resources. And if we don't invest in them and protect them and consider that going forward too as a part of the importance of why people travel here and why people like to live here, and what my 9 grandchildren that I have, soon to be 10 and then 11 next year, and you can tell I love them a lot. And I care about their future, and I care about their grandchildren's future. So we put $450 million in the expansion and improvement of state parks this year. We passed the Rural Brownfields Restoration Act. We have 175 toxic sites in this state that we should clean up. And we're going to now, thanks to the General Assembly passing that Rural Brownfields Act. We established 4 new state parks, 4 new natural areas, 3 new trails, and we're not going to stop there, because we owe it to the next generation of Tennesseans, not just to have a state that's economically vibrant and infrastructure ready to go and a great education system going forward, but we owe it to them to be left with the beautiful natural place that we all enjoy. Certainly, this is an incredibly beautiful part of the world right here in this city and this region and up Sequatchie Valley. And I mean, it's just one of the most beautiful places in the world. And we should leave that to our grandchildren's grandchildren. So we're making investments there too. And you can be proud that you are making those investments because it's happening in partnership with the people all across the state, local communities that are funding and engaging with us in that as well. So I wanted to throw that in because I'm going to a state park in just a few minutes and celebrating
Good.
some of that. So.
Well, that's a great way to wrap up. Thank you for spending time doing this, being here today. Thank you, Chattanooga, for hosting us.
Yep.
This has been a phenomenal couple days. So we're gonna stay up here and take pictures. So
Okay.
So thank you all for the day and the lunch, and safe travels back. Thank you.
Thank you.